Hey guys, it's Core Ross and welcome to Bustin' Rainbow Six Siege. Today we are myth-busting Goyo and his rework, which detaches his canisters from his shields. So let's cover the basics before we get into the myths. This gadget can be placed anywhere within arm's reach of Goyo. So floors, walls, desks, filing cabinets, barricades, castle barricades, keybar barriers, but not on the original deployable shields. And in this new form, he gets 4 of these explosive canisters. Not only that, they last for 20 seconds compared to 10 seconds of the original shields. And their radius has also been increased. Now so far I've been finding this rework to be quite fun, especially combining it up with capcan traps or putting it on wooden barricades so that it explodes when people enter via the window. But the proper strats that people are going to come up with are going to be far more varied because this thing has much more versatility and its huge radius and very long burn time is going to be very important in late game plays, and you can really burn a lot of time with this gadget. So it's going to be fun to see how pros use it and higher ranked players as well. But let's get into the myths. You can actually run through the fire, so even with its massive radius, if you've got full health, you will take about half damage running through it, which of course is not something you want to do most of the time, but sometimes it can actually be very advantageous. And the reason for that is, of course, people don't expect you to be coming from the place that's on fire, and because it lasts for 20 seconds, there's a good chance that people will turn their backs and look at a different view while they wait for that fire to actually go out. There's also a super basic tactic that I've been using just to automatically have my Vulcans explode, which is putting them on window barricades so that when the barricade is destroyed, the canisters explode. And I found there's 2 different ways to do this. First of all, you could place it underneath the actual window, so it's still on the barricade part, but not visible from the window. So when they melee it, they don't actually see it. The other version is higher up, so it's actually on the window, so they will see it when they start meleeing, but if they continue, it will detonate and the fire actually spills out. So it's very good. Also, I was very surprised to find out during testing that if you vault in through the window and run through the fire, you will still take half damage, even though you're basically running through half the diameter of the usual fire. So that vaulting animation must be adding time, which is burning you for a considerable amount of damage. So it actually is better than I thought it was when I was playing around with it. But anyway, it is confirmed running through the fire is definitely a tactic you might want to use, but it also is going to hurt quite a bit. New Goyo versus Old Goyo, and specifically that you will take more damage running through the fire on this new gadget than the old one because the radius has increased significantly, and we have some facts to back it up, which is that it still does 12 damage per tick, so it's exactly the same as the old one. And of course the radius has increased significantly, so you have longer to actually run through that fire, and of course that's going to cause more damage, or you would think. Now I do want to mention that there is some big differences before we get into running through the fire here. When the shield explodes in the current live version of the game, which will obviously be the old one in the future, that does actual explosive damage to players and nearby gadgets. It'll also put a big hole in the wall. This new version will put a very small hole in the wall and not cause any explosive damage to the player or any gadgets nearby. And that is a buff or a nerf depending on how you look at it, because it's good, you can put it right next to friendly gadgets and not worry about them, and also it's kind of sucky to not obviously have that immediate explosive damage to an enemy player, which can definitely help. But anyway, let's get down to testing this myth, which ended up having a surprising outcome for me. So with the old shield, if we run through the smaller radius, we'll get to the other side with 62 health. If we then run back through, we will end up with 14 health. Now with the new one, which appears to have a significant increase in radius, if we run through it, we'll end up with 62 health, and if we run back through it, we'll end up with 14 health. So that means for a 2-speed operator to run through this, you're going to get exactly the same damage as the previous version, even with the smaller radius, even with the same damage tick, you will end up with the same amount of damage overall. I'm assuming that's because you're just making it over before the next tick of damage actually comes in, and you know, if it had been successful in coming, you would have got 12 extra damage there. So yeah, that was a surprise for me there, and shows that you can't assume that the bigger radius just means more damage, because in some cases it won't have any additional effect, but it looks more impressive and obviously blocks off more potential areas that attackers might be able to go to. Now in the past, Goyo and Maestro were quite a good team up, but I think they're even better now, and especially because there's no actual explosive damage from the canister going off that destroys other gadgets around it, which means Maestro can safely put his turret right next to the canister, and that means attackers have to decide what they're going to do here, because of course they're going to want to clear that turret out, but if they do, they're going to end up with 20 seconds of fire. If they try to push up, then the turret can also set the fire off, making it this little fortification that the attackers have to deal with one way or another, and they know they're going to have to waste their time, no matter what. So the tactics here with this new Goyo are going to be a bit more advanced than the previous one. Goyo versus Amaroo. So if Amaroo does a quick enter onto a window with a Goyo shield on it, she will of course set off the fire, but the amount of damage she's going to take has been very minimal, so it's not exactly a good tactic, although you'll certainly hear it. Also, if she comes up via a hatch as well, that will also set off the fire. But again, none of that initial explosive damage, so it's kind of minimal. If she just simply moves and runs, she will be fine, but of course gives you the chance to shoot her. Twitch's laser versus Goyo. So of course Twitch used to have a taser, she now has a laser, and yes, it detonates the Goyo canister. She's definitely one of the best counters, and that is confirmed. However, Goyo is not powerless against drones. His new gadget is actually capable of blocking drone holes. Now you'll notice it's nowhere near the drone hole, but the animation completes and it just skids forward a little bit. But yeah, you can block drone holes with this thing, and it looks like there's enough room. It totally looks like there should be enough room for a drone to come through sideways, but no. And yeah, I honestly think this is a really good tactic to use with him. Obviously the attackers could use an explosive to clear it, but that's them using up some utility. Yeah, so to me this is actually a viable idea and it works, so that's confirmed. Goyo plus Amaroo. So there is some nice interaction between Amaroo and these Goyo canisters that I think will be useful for tactics in the future. I don't really know how they're going to play out yet, but certainly if you put up your lasers and Goyo's canisters in the way, they'll go into a standby mode, which I quite like because of course it keeps the lasers protected. It means they can't get immediately switched off by just a drone or something jumping into them. And of course, as soon as the canister explodes, the lasers come back on. You can also put the canister behind the lasers too. I don't think that's going to be as particularly useful, but it means that obviously when that canister gets shot or destroyed, the lasers come online. And yeah, I think there's something here for sure that's going to be useful. Of course, if you go up as Goyo and actually try and put stuff on the lasers, they'll switch off with your presence and then you can place your canister on it. And yeah, I think there's going to be some sort of tactic here. No idea what, but might be useful. Certainly confirmed though. Goyo plus Castle. Now, I love all the tactics where I don't actually have to bother watching these and shooting these canisters, because obviously it'd be nice if they just detonated for me. So I love teaming up with cap cans and stuff like that. But you can also do that on, of course, barricades. But what about Castle? Because of course, if we can pop ourselves a little castle barricade up and then the enemy come along and blow it up, it'd be nice if there was a whole bunch of fire there stopping them from actually getting in. Well, if a defender comes over and actually yanks down the castle barricade, the Goyo will not detonate. This is actually also the same with wooden barricades as well. If you yank them down, it seems there's a safe mode where they just won't detonate. However, if the castles are destroyed by melee attacks, which is of course the other option attackers have other than explosives, they will detonate, which is kinda cool. So there is a safe mode kind of built in there. And it should be noted that this is different from Azami's barricades, where you can mount them on the barricades, but if you melee them, they will not detonate the Goyo shields. They'll only detonate if they are set off by explosives. So there's some really interesting variety and complexity with how this gadget interacts with Castle and Azami's barricades. And I would say it's confirmed definitely worth putting them on castle barricades, because of course if that castle barricade is taken down by an attacker, it will detonate. Goyo versus Maverick. So we've seen that defenders do have a way with Azami to actually clear these Goyo shields without them detonating, which might come in useful, but the attacker side don't have any way to clear them without them detonating. And that is also the case with Maverick. I even tried burning around the gadgets to see if I could destroy them without them exploding, but they all just went up in flames as well. Now let's talk about the way the fire spreads for this gadget, because I had some inconsistencies where sometimes it would spread, sometimes it wouldn't, and I couldn't really figure out why. So I've got two examples here. a full soft wall and then another soft wall that's actually been destroyed underneath it. Because of course what I want to see is that fire spread. So you can see there we've got a hole from the explosion which has resulted in fire on both sides. The fire at the back is obviously far smaller, but you could definitely use this to try and seal off corridors without actually being in the corridor. I tried it with the hole at the bottom to see if it would increase the fire's effect, and it did not. So yeah, it's quite interesting and very cool to play around with this and try out different tactics. But here's an example of a soft wall that I set up some Goyos on, because I thought, you know, we'll put the fire on the other side of the wall. So as you can see, we've got tons of fire right here, but then we go inside, no fire. So I don't know why sometimes it seems to spread, sometimes it seems to not spread. And then I also like the idea of putting these on hatches where you obviously put the canister on top, set it off and then spread fire down below. But unfortunately it doesn't, because the fire doesn't spread, it actually stays exactly in the square of the hatch, and you actually take almost no damage. So if you want to, you can use these Goyo canisters to do hatch drops, and I think it's really funny and almost as, actually maybe even better than impacts in some cases for popping hatches all of a sudden. Oryx versus Goyo, and I say versus because there's an odd interaction. So of course when Oryx goes through a wall, he will detonate the Goyo canister, but the game believes that it wasn't Oryx who set it off but actually Goyo, which means that if obviously Oryx stops moving, he will die and it'll be a team kill. And that means potentially it could be used for trolling, because you got a Goyo player on your team, you just pick Oryx, wait for him to put on a soft wall, bash into that wall, get yourself team killed along with maybe one of your buddies, and that person then gets sanctioned. So I'm going to report this one as a bug, but certainly watch out for that, and hopefully if that is a bug, it'll get fixed during the test server session before it actually goes live. And that's the thing, everything in this video could potentially change because of course it's all on the test server right now. Now earlier in this video I tested how Maverick's Blowtorch interacted with the canisters, and you know, big surprise, boom, when a blowtorch is used against it. But I also said there's no operator who can actually destroy it on attack without it detonating. But Sledge potentially could, because he is one of the only attackers who has a destruction based gadget that is not explosive based, but we've gone and tested it and he will still cause fire. So the only way for attackers to get rid of this thing is to set it on fire for 20 seconds. Goyo versus Ace. So first of all, we've got just basic destruction through a wall. So this is a reinforced wall, but of course this will be the same on a soft wall, and a canister is on the other side of the wall, and you'll see how it actually causes the fire detonation. Now, the other thing is, one of the canisters on your side of the wall and you throw your gadget. You'll see that the destruction from Ace's gadget is big enough to actually catch it on the edges there. And what we're also going to test is direct hits as well, because you can throw an Ace charge onto a Maestro camera directly and it will destroy that Maestro camera. But interestingly, it won't do this on Goyo. If you get a direct hit, nothing happens. I wonder if this is a deliberate choice or just something they've overlooked, but certainly it does absolutely nothing at all. Now of course you might be saying that obviously Ace could just shoot the canister and blow it up, but remember this thing is 90% bulletproof with one part that is actually red and shootable, and that means that of course if Goyo has put it down correctly, the bulletproof side will be facing towards the attackers, meaning that Ace is going to have a very hard time clearing that out. But if it's on a soft surface like a soft floor or a soft wall, he can throw his Ace charge next to it in order to take it out, which is definitely very useful. And it would add a little bit more utility to him if he was able to destroy it with a direct hit, although that maybe would be too good for him. But certainly it's confirmed if you're blowing up a wall or you're blowing up a floor, you can definitely take it out, but a direct hit is actually busted. Goyo plus Wamai. So of course these canisters are going to be wanting to be cleared as quickly as possible by the attacking team. You don't want them coming into play late game. That is going to be very bad if you've got say 30 seconds to go and then a canister gets set off in front of you. So Wamai is going to be a really good combo here, because of course he can either protect the canisters or deliberately explode them with captured gadgets like grenades or gun 6 shots, and I think that could come in very useful. Of course, if Wamai captures though something like a flashbang or gridlock tracks, they're not going to set it off, but still I think it could be a pretty nice tactic to team up with Wamai and Goyo. And that's it guys, we're now at the end of Mythbusting Goyo's rework. Now I will say, this basically is only skin deep and it took 15 bloody minutes. I could have probably made a whole hour about this gadget. It is not quite as versatile as the brand new gadget on Azami, but it is way more versatile than the old Goyo with of course the shield. And I think we're only at the surface level of what this thing can do for tactics in the future. So I'm really interested on this hitting live servers and seeing how people will use it. So let me know what you think of all this in the comments below, and if I missed anything you think is obvious or something I should test, let me know and I might well go and check it out. Thank you very much for watching guys, and I'll catch you next time.